Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to hold on for just a couple of minutes to make sure everyone gets into the room before we start the meeting. Okay, it looks like no one else is in the waiting room, so I'm going to go ahead and get us going. Good afternoon. I'm Audrey Nickerson, the project manager on this project with Sea of Palm Desert Public Works. Welcome to community meeting number 3 for the Haystack Road Traffic Calming and Safety Study. We're excited to give you some updates, information on the study, and hope to have a good dialogue and feedback from the community. I would like to acknowledge that Mayor Kathleen Kelly and Council Member Sabby Jonathan are present at today's meeting. Thanks everyone for attending today and for your continued interest in this project. As we conduct the meeting, we'll continue to admit people from the waiting room. During the presentation today, we're going to provide a summary of the project and an update on the work our consultant has conducted to date to determine the suggested project improvements on Haystack Road. We're going to share with you the suggested improvements to achieve the goals that we've set for the project. Before we get into the pre-recorded presentation from our consultant, I'd like to remind everyone that project updates are posted on the project website, www.haystackroad.com, including the recordings of our 2 previous community meetings. At the time of our last community meeting, we had installed 3 speed feedback signs on Haystack Road for westbound traffic. I'm happy to say that the remaining 3 speed feedback signs for eastbound traffic were installed in August. I'm receiving a call from one of our attendees. Give me 1 second, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that, guys. So the speed feedback signs were installed in August, so now we have 6 in operation. And also the Sheriff's Department provided data from the increased enforcement efforts on Haystack Road. They've reported 36 traffic stops between June and August, 19 of which were speed violations. They issued 11 citations and 8 warnings. And about 64% of the citations issued were to residents that live within 5 or 6 blocks of Haystack Road. This data indicates that speeding is not only an issue for people passing through the corridor, but also among nearby residents. We will continue monitoring the speed data from the speed feedback signs and share that data with the Sheriff's Department so they can coordinate continued police enforcement during periods when the greatest speeding issues are observed. Without further ado, I will start the pre-recorded PowerPoint presentation, which will also be posted on the project website so that anyone that could not attend tonight's meeting can watch it and provide feedback to us. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will engage the participants and get your input on the suggested improvements. Bear with me. Can y'all hear it? Sorry, guys, let me fix it.
Objectives in the current study.
Why is it not starting over?
You, the community, have.
I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know why it's not starting from the beginning.
Hi, I'm Charlie Schwinger, an engineer with KOA Corporation. Residents who live along Haystack Road and in the adjacent neighborhoods have expressed concern to the City Council about traffic speeds and safety along Haystack Road. The city has requested KOA as a traffic safety consulting firm to help find solutions to make Haystack Road safer. The safety study includes Haystack Road between Highway 74 and Portola Avenue. Our objectives in the current study are to address high travel speeds, intersection safety, pedestrian safety, and bicycle safety. You, the community, have 3 formal opportunities to help guide the study. In our first public meeting, the Haystack Road community provided input on traffic speeds and safety concerns. KOA conducted field observations of the street and traffic and analyzed accident experience and traffic data, including speed, traffic volumes, lane widths, corner sight distance measurements, lighting, and the use of the existing parking and bike lanes. In the second meeting, the project team described the types of solutions that could be used to address issues on Haystack Road. The presentation describes strategies to address intersection safety, speed management, and pedestrian and bicycle improvements. Concept illustrations were presented for enhanced crosswalks with all-way stops at intersections, protected bike lanes, and roundabouts. In the meeting today, you will be able to provide input on the suggested solutions. Following your input, the study will provide recommendations for improvements and will be presented to the City Council for direction and funding. A project website is also available where you can provide additional comments at www.haystackroad.com. Our study schedule was set up to integrate traffic and engineering development of improvements with your input, concluding with today's meeting. Today, we would like your input on the suggested solutions. The suggested implementation plan has been organized into 3 levels of priority. Priority 1 projects are those which can be implemented at a relatively low cost within this fiscal year. The results of the Priority 1 projects would be evaluated 6 to 12 months after implementation through an engineering and traffic study to determine if the speed limit should be reposted. If Priority 1 projects do not accomplish the goal of controlling traffic speeds and safety, then Priority 2 projects should be considered. Given the density of driveways along Haystack Road, an appropriate goal for speed reduction would be to 35 miles per hour. If Priority 2 projects are warranted, then those would be moderate cost projects anticipated to be implemented in the fiscal year following the Priority 1 evaluation. The Priority 2 project would then be evaluated for effectiveness 6 to 12 months after implementation. If the results of the evaluation warrant further traffic calming, then Priority 3 projects could be implemented in subsequent years. Construction of Priority 1, 2, and 3 projects would take place sequentially, with evaluation of effectiveness after each improvement to determine if further improvements would be needed. Priority 1 projects include first, the installation of speed feedback signs, which has already happened. The resulting speeds on Haystack Road are now being monitored by the police department. Priority 1 projects also include installing all-way stop control at Elmo Drive, Gia Drive, and Moon Lane. The all-way stop control will also include striped crosswalks, sidewalk ramps, and stop ahead signs with cross-street name placards. The cost for the stop signs, sidewalk ramps, crosswalks, and stop ahead signs is estimated to be $65,000. The costs for the Priority 1, 2, and 3 projects include engineering, construction, inspection, and contingency in today's dollars. These next 2 slides illustrate the all-way stop improvements at Alamo Drive, Gia Drive, and Moon Lane. Should the Priority 1 projects not provide sufficient traffic calming, then the Priority 2 projects could be implemented to narrow the roadway for moving traffic. This can be done by adding buffers between the golf cart bike lanes and the moving traffic. Sometimes parked vehicles can be used as the buffer, but that requires more room than is available on Haystack Road, so we are suggesting the use of striped buffers. The Priority 2 project entails removing parking from the north side of Haystack Road and adding striped buffering to the golf cart bike lanes on each side of the street, effectively narrowing the travel lanes. That project is estimated to cost $305,000, as it would involve placing a seal coat over the roadway and placing entirely new striping. This slide shows an example of the new Priority 2 striping that will narrow the travel path for vehicles. This slide shows the striping reconfiguration in a typical section, with a 7-foot golf cart bike lane and a 3-foot stripe buffer on each side of the street, an 11-foot travel lane in each direction, a center left turn lane, and a parking lane on the south side of Haystack Road. Should Priority 1 and 2 projects still not produce sufficient reduction in travel speeds, Priority 3 projects should be considered for traffic calming and safety. Those projects might be considered individually or grouped into a single improvement project. Because the implementation and evaluation of Priority 1 and 2 projects will take several years, implementation of Priority 3 projects would be several years out. The Priority 3 projects include continuous sidewalk on the south side of Haystack Road at an estimated cost of $360,000. a two-way protected golf cart bike lane on the north side of Haystack Road for an estimated cost of $290,000. A roundabout at Alamo Drive for an estimated cost of $980,000. Street lights at intersections at an estimated cost of $130,000. This slide illustrates the protected golf cart bikeway on the north side of Haystack Road and the continuous sidewalk on the south side in section and perspective. This slide illustrates what a roundabout might look like at Alamo Drive. In summary, Priority 1 speed feedback signs have already been installed, and all-way stops, sidewalk ramps, crosswalks, and advanced warning signs could be installed this fiscal year for an estimated cost of $65,000. Priority 2 traffic calming would include removing parking from the north side of Haystack Road in exchange for adding buffered lanes for the golf carts and bikes, thus narrowing the travel lanes at an estimated cost of $305,000. 4 Priority 3 projects have been suggested for consideration beyond the Priority 1 and 2 project evaluations, if still needed. Continuous sidewalk on the south side of Haystack Road at an estimated cost of $360,000. A two-way protected golf cart bike lane on the north side of Haystack Road at an estimated cost of $290,000. A roundabout at Alamo Drive at an estimated cost of $980,000, and intersection street lighting at an estimated cost of $130,000. Following today's meeting, KOA will review the comments with City staff. The study report will be finalized to present to the City Council. The City Council will then determine the course of action and funding later this year. This concludes our presentation. We would now like to know what you think.
Okay. Thanks for listening to the presentation prepared by KOA. As stated earlier, we'll post it to the project website as well for anyone that could not attend the meeting today, so they can watch it and follow up with any comments or questions they may have. At this time, we'd like to ask you for your impressions of the suggested improvements presented here today. I'd like to introduce Charlie Schwinger with KOA Corporation. He is our project manager, and he will help facilitate the dialogue for the remainder of the meeting. I'll put up the presentation slides with no narration to help facilitate our conversation if needed. If you'd like to provide input, you can take yourself off mute or provide a written comment in the chat box.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So the suggestion is to do the level 1 stuff, and if that doesn't work, then go on to level 2, and if that doesn't work, go on to level 3, right?
Correct. And we installed the speed feedback signs this year. So the plan would be to implement those improvements and then measure the success of those improvements through the data we can pull from those signs. We can determine our success from there and determine if we need to implement any further improvements.
I like it. I know it's boring, but I like it. That's my input.
Thank you.
I have a question as well, if I might.
Of course.
Thank you. There was a slide that showed a bikeway with a sidewalk separation from the vehicular traffic.
This one?
No, it was towards the end. It was like almost like a rendering.
Oh, this one.
That one.
The
So
class 4.
yeah, so that would be like a two-way bike lane similar to CD Link.
Correct.
Displacing that on the south side of Haystack, which has no driveways, So it's kind of, if this is looking east, then that's what it would look like. Does that help us with traffic calming? And I would remind staff that there may be funds for this available in other funds in our bikeway pedestrian improvement plan. So my question is, if we put the bikeway just like this on the north side of Haystack, does that in any way impact, maybe positively, traffic calming on Haystack?
Yes, actually, if you did that, you would be reducing the roadway width from 62 feet to 40 feet, which is more appropriate, would produce more appropriate speeds for the number of driveways that you have there. Plus, that parking would be taking out of that on the south side as well. So another 8 feet out of 40 is like a 32-foot street. You know, basically it's just the 3 lanes instead of twice that. So yeah, you would expect to have some significant speed reductions.
Okay, then I won't belabor this meeting, but Randy, maybe you and I outside of this can talk about the possibility of funding something like this out of different places, which might open up an opportunity for traffic calming on Haystack. Thank you.
This is
Go ahead.
hi. This is Tom Boat. I actually had a question along the same line. I know that in the photo that we're looking at right now is going to be a little more expensive with that barrier. But did you consider, before going to the 3 streets with the full stops, narrowing the road, even with just with a wider bike and golf cart lane to help calm the traffic? And I don't recall, you might have shown a slide with some of the costs on that. I don't recall what it was, but why did you consider going to the 3 full stops prior to kind of narrowing the road first to try and accomplish the slower speeds on Haystack?
Actually the stop signs are for a different purpose. They're more for safety than speed reduction. If you have stop signs, people will stop and then feel like they have to speed up again to make up for it. The idea of the stop signs were that if you're pulling in from the side street, you don't have adequate sight distance of the cars coming at the speeds that they're going. And also it provides an opportunity for pedestrians to cross the road at a controlled intersection if they want to get over to the linear part. So it really is more geared towards safety than it is towards speed reduction.
Got it. And instead of just having like the crosswalks without the stop signs, just would give it the added safety element. Is that correct?
Yes, and it also would tend to discourage cut through traffic. If they've got 3 places that they have to stop along the corridor, it might slow them down enough where they think, you know, I'm going to find another route that's more appropriate to cut through the neighborhood.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. I like what I see though. Thank you.
So Audrey, we have a comment from LD in the chat. I brought up lowering the speed limit several times. It really needs to be lowered. Drivers go at least 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. So most are effectively driving 50+ miles an hour. And the mayor responded to that as well, asking if she's correct that the legislature just passed a bill, AB 43, signed by the governor, affording greater flexibility to cities with speed limits.
Yes, I was writing a response to that. I'll dive in on that, Audrey. The new bill is AB 43. Yeah, Mayor, you did say that, so kudos to you. AB 43 will allow cities greater flexibility, but the bill does give a bit of a buffer of time to allow the state to put in place processes for how speeding tickets are adjudicated. And so the bill states that either one of 2 things happens. Either the state enacts those changes, or if they don't, then by June 30th of 2024, the bill goes into effect. So there is a little bit of a wait yet until one of those two milestones is achieved.
And I guess as far as the original question about lowering the speed limit, we did conduct studies along Haystack Road and determined that the speed limit of 45 was not warranted to be lowered at this time. Charlie, would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, the only thing I would say about lowering the speed limit is right now people are driving the roadway at a speed that they feel comfortable without respect to people pulling in and out of driveways or coming from the side street. They've got 62 feet of pavement, so they can drive it like they're taking off on the runway. And you can post 20 miles an hour there, and people will not drive 20 miles an hour unless there is enforcement. So if you post the speed limit lower and are able to do that, it follows it without a physical change in the roadway. You still need to have heavy enforcement, or people will continue to drive the higher speed. That's just human nature. You know, the sign itself does not physically stop people from driving higher speeds.
I would like to note as well that going into this project, one of our goals is to reduce speeds on the roadway, and we have internally discussed in this area a speed limit of 35 miles an hour would be adequate for a residential street like this. So as we start to implement these improvements and we measure the data, we'll be looking for those trends lowering that speed limit. And at a time that we see a notable reduction in speed, we can reassess the speeds and see if there is a reduction in speed limit is warranted at that time.
We also have a question from David. Was adding intermittent not only at the intersections, pedestrian crosswalks with lights discussed? It seems like the main issue is people trying to cross Haystack all along the road, not just reducing the speed.
Yeah, we did discuss that, and felt that bringing people across at a recognizable intersection was a safer treatment for them than just putting it midway and having a crosswalk where there's no other distinction.
And then Linda observed on the slide that we're looking at currently, she's concerned about the narrow parking lane for entering and exiting vehicles in traffic.
The parking on the south side of the roadway?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and Charlie, you can back me up, but this right here, this is a rendering. I'm not sure if it was drawn to scale based on the existing roadway. The parking lane would not be smaller than it is now if I just based on reviewing the sections provided. Charlie, do you have?
Yeah, I was going to say I was scanning through my slides here too. With priority 2, we have an 8-foot parking lane, which is basically the standard lane that's the manual and uniform traffic control devices suggests. With alternative 3, we narrow that to 7 foot, which is still okay for a car that is a little tighter. I would agree that it is tight for parallel parking. I think the advantage you have here is generally you don't have car trunk to hood parked, you have room to pull in and out. It's not like in a business zone where you have maybe just 22 feet for your parking. So that's not as critical. But a good comment, good question.
I have a quick question. Why are traffic circles so expensive?
Generally, because when one is put in a community, it becomes a signature piece, and usually the community likes to see a nice looking one rather than one with just curb and concrete. And so if you have anything, any landscaping, you have irrigation for that. You have pavers. Typically, not always, but again, if you're going to do a well-done roundabout, it involves tearing out pavement, not just tacking something on. They can be built cheaply, but I'm not sure that the neighborhood would like to see the results on that.
Got it.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Well, with that, thank you everyone for your time today attending community meeting number 3. The pre-recorded presentation and the recording of this meeting will be posted to the project website, and we will review the comments from the community meeting today and finalize the study plan for City Council consideration. Thanks for your continued collaboration with us to improve safety along Haystack Road. I hope y'all have a nice evening.
Linda, if you can contact Audrey Nickerson with your question. Her phone number is 760-776-6444. That's her desk phone. I'd rather ask if you would call her rather than asking you to display your home phone in the chat box.
I want to thank the community too for being involved in this project and helping shape the results. That's really important because after all, this is going to be your project and your community, and needs to be something that you believe in and something that you can support.
I know Councilmember Jonathan and I echoes that gratitude. And for those of you still on the call, spread the word among your friends and neighbors that the presentation will be on the website and input is still welcome.
Yes. Yeah, we would still like to incorporate any other comments and factor it into the final report to the city.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Y'all have a great evening.